Yeah, Christian here just said the Pope just came out with his encyclical on climate change, so it's worth a read for sure, and it's making a lot of people in powerful places very uneasy. Good point, for sure. Thank you, Terry. I appreciate all of the work that you're doing to fight those legal battles here in Ohio. And, you know, one of the reasons that, you know, we can go in here and meet with our legislators and hear oil and gas talking points spewed over and over and over again is because we have folks here in the crowd today even that are funding, that are giving campaign contributions from the oil and gas industry. I've looked up a lot of these legislators. The oil and gas industry is in the top 5, 6, 7, maybe the third person or the third entity that is giving money to these legislators. And their districts are so gerrymandered that they know that they can choose their voters. So that's why I invited today Catherine Turcer of Common Cause Ohio to speak to you about a couple of important issues. One, the Monroe Falls case. But Catherine is a whiz too. If you ever have any questions about how to find where the money is, Catherine is the person here in the state to go to. But today she wants to talk to us also about an important issue that's going to be coming up on the ballot this November. Thanks, Catherine.
Hi, everybody. As she said, my name is Catherine Turcer. I'm with Common Cause Ohio. Apparently I don't have my rock star move getting close to the mic. Is this better? So I'm so glad that we're all here. It is a glorious spring day, and we're here because we care about clean air and clean water and the future of our children. And as we talk about these environmental crises, we cannot forget a couple different things. One, I bet you know it, money in politics. 2, gerrymandered districts. And so as we think about the fight for the environment, you cannot separate it from the dysfunction of government. And so I'm going to start talking a little bit about the Monroe Falls case, and that's, you know, the Monroe Falls had rules basically saying, hey, you can't actually frack in our community. Beck Energy made an agreement with some local folks and started to drill. Now, Monroe Falls is up in Summit County, so it's a distance away. But as we think about that, they had to go all the way to the Supreme Court to stop them from violating a zoning ordinance. Now, we all know that, you know, Ohio is a home rule state. And we know that when frackers have tried to come into communities in New York and in Pennsylvania, the frackers were told home rule matters, that the local zoning matters, that this is not a state decision. But the Ohio Supreme Court decided that in fact, it was all up to the state to determine where they in fact could do fracking. And that Monroe Falls could not stop what Justice Judith Lanzinger calls a 1,000-pound gorilla. She said in her dissent, she said there is no need for the state to act like a 1,000-pound gorilla. And in fact, Justice Bill O'Neill said, what the drilling industry has bought and paid for in campaign contributions, they shall receive. Now, it's interesting to think about, just in the past couple years, so in 13, 14, the oil and gas industry, and this is just at the state level, gave $1.4 million to candidates, including $8,000 to the justice who wrote the decision, that's Justice French, and $7,200 to Justice O'Donnell, who did the supporting decision. We are truly in a crisis when it comes to money in politics, and I think we're all kind of familiar that money is exploding, it's out of control. And then, in fact, this is interesting, just yesterday, Judge Helene O'Toole, she's from up in the Warren area, she actually sued the Supreme Court, and by this I mean the Chief Justice, because she feels that limits on fundraising actually violate her First Amendment rights. She would like to raise money, not just during the time period just before the election, but she would like to be able to do it all 6 years. And I bet you all didn't know this, that when, in fact, somebody goes to court, there is not recusal based on campaign contributions. In fact, all the time, we have situations in which campaign contributors, the judge actually hears their case. One of the things that we could do, not just for this issue, but for many, many issues, is to actually support recusal of campaign contributions. If a judge receives a campaign contribution of a high amount, he or she should not hear that contributor's case. I mean, it's, so, ethics, common sense. Did I hear a duh? Duh. Okay, so what we're talking about is creating something that's fair so that your issue, the environment, gets heard, but it would address so many other issues. And I'd encourage all of us to band together with all the people that are working on a variety of issues to think about changing the way government functions. Now, all right, so obviously we're talking also about moving to amend, right? We actually need to talk about amending the Constitution so that we can put appropriate space and we can actually have some limitations. If you have $100 and you have $1,000 and you have $1 million, she actually gets much more speech, right? She can buy lots of ads. And in fact, it's really sad to think about what is going on with the presidential election, which really comes down to a dollar race, not necessarily a race for the best ideas and the brightest. It's incredibly sad. Now, I'd also like to highlight, I bet you all are familiar, say that dirty word, gerrymandering. Okay, so does anybody have a dollar? All right, I'm pulling out a dollar. I'm the money in politics lady, of course I have some money. Okay, so if you pull out a dollar, you will in fact find George Washington's face on it, right? This was actually made by a guy named Gilbert Stuart. Gilbert Stuart also crafted that cartoon, the gerrymander cartoon. The one that showed this crazy district that looked like a salamander, or Jerry after Elbert Gary. It looked like a salamander, so the gerrymander. And the thing to remember about this, that gerrymander in Massachusetts was created because Patrick Henry got pissed off at James Madison. Think about this. Our Secretary of State has said something that I think is really important for us to remember. The way that we redistrict is the fractured foundation of our democracy. And we need to do something. The whole rigging of districts is the manipulation of our vote. And we need to actually take back our power. And I'm going to ask you to vote yes on issue 1. I'm going to give you some material about it, but it addresses state legislative redistricting. It creates a bipartisan way of doing it, and it focuses on keeping communities together. No more squiggly, squiggly lines, Rorschach ink blot districts. No more craziness that way. And it also addresses, you can't actually create a district that favors one party over the other. I'd like to say thank you very much and hand this back to my friend Alison. But I do have handouts for you all because the proposal's a little bit complicated, of course, and I want you to have that information. So come by, I've got it in my bag. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine, for that and for all the work that you're doing. We do still have one more speaker, but Jenny Morgan, one of our musicians, always comes over, and I really appreciate that she does this on her work breaks because she's so passionate about this issue. But she's written some songs about fracking, and they're really awesome and very inspiring. So I'm going to bring up Jenny Morgan next. There is a microphone on this one too, so I don't know if it's still...
A wise man once said, "The only solar, wind industry have not been opened up is because the gas and the oil man don't own the sun. So true, Ralph Nader. He don't own the sun, no, no, no. He don't own the sun. He can't make his billions if he don't own the sun. No, no. Sun is yours, the sun is mine. We don't need a drill to make it shine. He don't want you to use the sun. How simple is that? Oh. Seems we've got a problem growing every day. The gas and oil man fracking up the USA. But we're standing up, we've had enough of those fossil fuels killing us. We know there's a better way. Oh. The sun is giving, the sun is free. Just put a box up there, use what you need. No more poison or oil spills or paying out them dollar bills. That's right, there is a better way. He just doesn't want you to know, right? Oh, you don't own the sun, no, he don't own the sun. He can't make his billions if he don't own the sun. Poor boy, the sun is yours, the sun is mine. We don't need a drill to make it shine. That's why he don't want you to use the sun. See? Oh! He'll pay off politicians. He'll do anything he can to make sure that we never have a viable renewable plant. No, no. He just wants to drill, baby, drill toxic wells in the ground so he can make all his money, frack us to hell and poison every living thing around. Oh, every living thing. Oh, where are the people? Come on. They think it's hyperbole. They do. They think it's hyperbole that this is going on. And it's radioactive. That's part of the problem. They think it's hyperbole, and it's not, folks. Oh. Don't get me started. Woo. Imagine, if you will, every home throughout this land using solar energy, cutting out the middleman. He might be angry, he might be blue, but we'll have more money and clean air too. That's right, there's a better way. Come on. He don't own the sun, no, 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 he don't own the sun. Well, he can't make his billions if he don't own the sun. The sun is yours, the sun is mine. We don't need a drill to make it shine. He don't want you to use the sun. Wake up! Wake up! He don't want you to use the sun. Please, wake up! Keep up all the good work, Carolyn. You're an inspiration. Terry, you're so inspiring. You've helped me as well. Thank you so much. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, Jenny. So let Jenny inspire you to be creative in your protest. Okay, so last but not least of our speakers, I'm going to bring up Harvey Wasserman to talk to you about the straightforward campaign to stop new nuclear, George Bush screwed me all up, new nuclear plants from being built. and about his vision for a renewable energy future. Harvey Wasserman, folks.
Hi, everybody. I guess I'll go sideways here, right? Okay, in honor of George W. Bush, I'm going to call it nuclear. Nuclear, all right? I know, there's going to be a pot referendum on the ballot this fall, and I gave up smoking it because it gave me a headache and it makes me paranoid. In other words, it reminds me of George W. Bush, so we'll have to be careful with pot. But I've got to tell you one thing about pot before we move ahead. Far bigger than pot is going to be the hemp industry. Hemp is a great biofuel, and it's going to be one of the ways that we actually balance our agricultural economy. And so it's a hidden issue on the pot referendum, which I think we'll have this fall, and it's a big deal, actually. Even though it's kind of weird the way they're doing it with the 10 designated farms, but we'll get around that. So why is pot a part of this? Because we are changing the world right now. We are in the midst of a major technological and agricultural revolution. But the leaders in Ohio, the corporations that run Ohio, are deathly afraid of what we're doing. And I got to tell you, the #1 threat to human survival on this planet is corporate personhood. Corporate personhood gives the power to the cancerous tumor that is the corporation. The way our dominant economic institutions are set up, corporations which run our economy are given human privileges but have no human responsibilities. And this is the root cause of our fracking problem, of our oil and gas problem, and of our nuclear problem, or nuclear, sorry. And it's what I call King Kong: coal, oil, nukes, and gas. So we're not talking about killing a gorilla here. We're talking about killing the domination of corporations. And that's the root problem that we all face. And so this move to amend movement to not allow corporations to buy our elections is at the root of everything that we face right now. If corporations could not give political donations, or as we call them in the real world, bribes, then we would not be facing this disaster. What we are facing is an ecological and economic catastrophe of the first order. And I have to say that our governor and our legislature in this state is the #1 governor and the #1 legislature that's anti-green in this country. Look at what they did. When John Kasich came into power in 2011, he had on his desk a $400 million grant from the federal government that involved no state taxes to restore passenger rail service between Cleveland, Columbus, Dayton, and Cincinnati. And his first act, at least on the environmental side as governor, was to kill that passenger rail service. Columbus, Ohio is the largest capital city in the Western world with neither passenger rail service nor internal commuter light rail. We are the town that technology forgot. Then they come in and they try and stop the Tesla. Obviously, the wave of the future in automobiles is going to be electric cars. And what does our legislature do? They try and stop Tesla from selling cars in the state of Ohio. You gotta be kidding me. I brought my Tesla, by the way, it's right there, that two-wheeler. Very, very ecologically powered, I will tell you. It has a 69-year-old machine, but other than that, it's doing fine. Okay? Then what do? They kill our beautiful, wonderful green power program in this state. We had one of the most progressive transition, 310, one of the most progressive transition bills to a green-powered economy of anywhere in the world, this side of Germany, which is going 100%. But we are in their path. And what does this legislature do, which is owned and operated by the Koch brothers and Sheldon Adelson? They kill this program. And not only that, Kasich goes in and he sticks onto a budget bill with no public hearings, no legislative process, a minor amendment to the wind power statutes that has essentially killed commercial wind power in the state of Ohio. Absolutely no ecological justification, no public health justification, no economic justification. He did this pure and simple to serve the interests of the Koch brothers who have investments in coal, oil, nukes, and gas. Absolutely no benefit whatsoever to the public, and as a matter of fact, the town of Leipzig in northern Ohio was poised to have wind power in their state, a multi-million-dollar investment, hundreds of jobs to be created, and our job-creating governor goes in there and kills this for no reason whatsoever, except to serve the interests of his race in the Koch brother primary, which will decide which Republican stooge, by the way, it'll be Jeb Bush, who's going to run for president as a Republican. And you'll notice that Kasich just the other day warned that Hillary Clinton could carry Ohio. Why did he say that? Because he wants to be vice president. He wants to be the vice presidential nominee. That way, with Jeb Bush carrying Florida and Kasich, flipping the switches to carry Ohio, the Republicans will win in 2016. That's the strategy. We have to make it clear to the world that this legislature and this governor is standing in the way of the only transition that can give Ohio an economic future. Now, we're talking about fracking here today. Fracking is ecologically catastrophic, as we all know. It turns our water to poison. It allows our water to catch fire. For God's sakes, of course, we have experience with that at the Cuyahoga River. We know about water catching fire. We know that it causes earthquakes. Many of you may be aware that Oklahoma is now the #1 location for earthquakes in the United States, transcending California, only because they're doing fracking. Of course, they're also doing fracking in California, and that's another story. But nonetheless, fracking is ecological suicide. It is also economic suicide. This gas is not going to last. It's going to go up in price, and what we're going to wind up doing is destroying our environment, making water a saleable commodity and that people are going to have to buy, for God's sakes, and we will wind up with no gas to frack anyway, not even in the long term. We don't have oil. Coal is on its way out. There are more people in the United States, listen to this, there are more people in the United States working in the solar industry than are in coal mines. The solar industry is no longer a pie in the sky. I have another shirt that says Solartopia, our green-powered Earth. We are headed to a totally green-powered Earth, everywhere in this country and everywhere in the Western world except Ohio, because of this legislature and this governor and the corporate ownership that's involved here. Now, we are also on the brink of a major decision here, a major turning point with our two horrendous nuclear power plants. And I know Terry Terry Lodge, a great hero of the movement to stop nuclear power. Let's give him a hand, because he just works his tail off, and I guarantee you, nobody ever got rich fighting nuclear power. We have the distinction in Ohio of probably the very worst and very most dangerous nuclear plant in the world, the Davis-Besse nuclear plant, which is literally crumbling before our eyes. The shield building that's supposed to protect the public around the Davis-Besse nuke has been infiltrated with water. It freezes, it crumbles, it thaws, it drips, it freezes, it crumbles. It is falling to pieces, ladies and gentlemen. There is no nuclear plant on this planet that's worse than Davis-Besse. It had a boric acid leak that almost caused a Chernobyl. The containment has been cut in, what, 3, 4 times? We don't even know. 4 times. That's a world record, ladies and gentlemen. We have the #1 college football team in the country, and we have the #1 nuclear plant with cuts into its containment. It's astounding. If Davis-Besse was a car, you wouldn't get in it. It is old. It is on its last legs. Now we have a chance to shut Davis-Besse and a number of the coal plants in this state. The Public Utilities Commission of Ohio has been facing 3 obscene rate requests, one from AEP, one from Duke Power, and one for First Energy. So far, we're 2 for 2. They have turned down AEP, and they've turned down Duke Energy for ridiculous rate requests that would continue operations of obsolete coal-burning power plants. First Energy has gone in, and everybody knows how consumer-friendly First Energy is, right? First Energy has gone in, and they've demanded a rate hike that would amount to more than $3 billion. That's B with a billion there. That would only to keep alive 2 totally obsolete power plants. The Samus coal burner, which is more than 50 years old, for God's sakes, and the Davis-Besse nuke, which is the world's worst. Now what's happened is that neither coal nor nuclear can anymore compete with solar and wind. That's the bottom line. Now we don't think much about solar in Ohio. Solar is not the greatest location, Ohio's not the greatest location for solar, but I gotta tell you a little Fox News story. I use the word news advisedly. On Fox, they were debating about the fact that Germany has decided to go 100% renewable. I'm sure you all know this. They've shut 8 nuclear power plants. 11 more will go down by 2022. They are making this transition way ahead of schedule and way under budget, to the point that people are generating so much electricity with rooftop solar in Germany that the utilities are going out of business, and they're complaining that energy rates have gone too low, that electricity is too cheap in Germany now. And so there was this moment on Fox News, and this was being presented, and one of Fox's genius commentators said that it's easier for Germany to go solar because they have more solar energy than the United States. All of California burst out in great laughter with this, but Ohio has better solar than Germany, and we have great wind power. I hope you all understand this. This is very important for us Ohioans to understand. Northern Ohio has some of the very best usable wind power in the world. Why? Well, number one, okay, the wind is not as powerful as it is in the Great Plains from the Dakotas down to Texas. It's not as strong and it's not as steady, but it's good. It comes in off the lake, it is strong, it is steady. What's different about Northern Ohio from almost anywhere else is that it's flat and there's tons of transmission there. We have all the transmission we need for wind power, which is not the case in the Great Plains, and the source of the electricity is close to populated areas like Toledo, Cleveland, Ashtabula, Detroit, Toronto, all those places, Buffalo, around the lake, they're near where the wind is. And Lake Erie, if you look at the wind maps of Lake Erie, it is the best possible wind resource you can have. It is strong, it is steady, it's reliable. Lake Erie is relatively shallow, and again, the wind resource is close to major populated areas. In addition to that, because of the Perry and Davis nuclear plants and all the other idiocies that First Energy has perpetrated on the public, electric rates are extremely high in Northern Ohio. Ned Ford, who does reports on this, says that we have suffered an industrial recession in Northern Ohio basically because of the huge amounts of money wasted on the Perry and Besse Davis nuclear plants. Now, if we can win this rate case in front of the PUCO and stop First Energy from gouging the public to pay for Samus and Davis-Besse, it's highly likely that both of them will shut. That is a very big deal. We've shut 5 nuclear reactors in the United States in the last 2 years. We have 99 left to go. Perry, by the way, before I forget, Perry is the first, I know this is counterintuitive, Perry is the first nuclear reactor in the United States to be damaged by an earthquake. We don't think about earthquakes much here in Ohio. And, you know, I actually debated somebody from, it was Centurion then, about Perry, and I congratulated her for their company finding a site in Ohio that was threatened by an earthquake fault. And she said, no, it's not an earthquake fault. It's a seismic anomaly, a seismic anomaly. Well, 3 days later, after our debate, that seismic anomaly delivered a 5.0 Richter scale earthquake to the Perry nuclear plant. Thankfully, it was not operating, but it could be next time. Let's not see how they operate a nuke in the middle of an earthquake. So, on June 14th, Sunday, June 14th, at Northwood High, we will be having a mini conference on the Perry and Davis-Besse and this rate hike. We're hoping Terry will come. We're going to have some great informational speakers. We just had a mini conference where Carolyn was among the 4 speakers. We have that web link. If you'll ask me about it afterwards, I'll tell you how to look at it. We have a 3-hour video. It's actually very good. There's a lot of hard sex in it, so you'll enjoy it. But nonetheless, we're going to do this again on June 14th, and then June 15th, we will have a major demonstration. I don't know if this has been mentioned. There'll be a major demonstration from here to the PUCO. That's a Monday, because the PUCO will begin its evidentiary hearings on this 3rd of the 3 rate hikes. We believe we can win. I know that's hard to say in Ohio. We believe we can win in front of the PUCO. If we win in front of the PUCO, they'll have to go to court, and then they'll have to go to the legislature. But it's going to be a tough sell. There is absolutely no economic justification for continuing to operate either the Samus or the Davis coal burner or the Davis-Besse nuke. So if we can shut this down, if we can shut these 2 burners down, they're going to have to open up finally to wind power and to solar in this state. And we will end fracking, we'll shut down the coal mines, and we will get to Solartopia. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you in June.
Thank you so much, Harvey, and thank you to all of our speakers. Thank you to everybody who came out today. I know some of you left really early in the morning to be able to meet with your legislators, so I really appreciate you and all the help I had today. We are, if anybody wants to debrief before or after their meetings that I know are happening this afternoon, I'm going to hang out over at the Sierra Club office just for a little bit. So does everyone know where that is? If you want to come over, 131 North High, and they'll let you in the elevators there and tell you where to go. It's on the 3rd floor. So thank you. Ban fracking now.
People, 2, you can't ignore us. 3, we will not let you poison our water. 1, we are the people. 2, you can't ignore us. 3, we will not let you poison our water.
Oh wait, okay. One more before we leave, because I just came up with a good one last night, and it was for Catherine, actually. So you got to give me a beat first. Gerrymander, we will stop you. Gerrymander, we will stop you. Gerrymander, we will stop you.